Okay, let's get started. Yes, today is day 2 of the First Look SoCal event, Innovation Showcase, from the Alliance of SoCal Innovation and Lava, the efforts put together. And this is the third track. Sorry, day 2 is the technology track. This is the third session of the technology track, which is computing and hardware. And as Darren mentioned, we have 4 companies. Each will get 3 minutes plus 9 minutes for Q&A. Members of the audience are encouraged to write questions in the Q&A box, and we can address those as that opportunity comes up. I'd like to begin first, well, quickly, a quick introduction to myself. My name is Aaron Fike. I'm founder and managing partner at Thin Line Capital. We're part of the Wavemaker family of funds. It's a seed stage fund based in Pasadena, investing in energy sustainability startups. And we've got Shaheen, Phil, Ivan, David, and Sarab here as our panelists, and I will quickly turn it over to each of them to give a brief introduction before we move on to the companies. Shaheen, good to see you again. Are you on?
Great to see you. Yes.
Hey, man. Yeah. Do you want to start with a brief intro?
Sure. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Lava and First Look, for putting this all together. I'm a partner at Lux Capital. We're a venture capital firm, been around for about 20 years, investing across healthcare and technology. I joined the firm in 2006, so it's been about 14 years since I joined. And my background is in semiconductors and electronics, so I've led our investments in chips, rockets, satellites, driverless cars, manufacturing automation, a lot in computer vision and AI. As a firm, we invest across therapeutics, surgical robotics, healthcare services, healthcare IT. And so I commute between Northern and Southern California. I'm hunkered down in Southern California at the moment. We have offices in Menlo Park and New York. So great to be here.
Excellent. I'm just going to hand it over to Phil next.
Hey, everyone. Good to be here. This is my first event, so I appreciate you organizing, and it's good to chat with everybody. Phil Schwartz, I'm part of Corazon Capital, which is a seed stage venture fund based in Chicago, but I am in Los Angeles. We invest in early stage companies, primarily on the consumer tech side. So my overlap is partial here to, I think, the companies that are presenting, but happy to opine. I have largely an operating background. I was chief marketing officer at Tinder from 2014 to 2016, and head of growth at Match Group before that, and then a bunch of other things before that I won't bore you with. But it's good to be here with everybody, and looking forward to it.
Thanks, Phil. And then Ivan, if you want to jump in next.
Hey guys, Elaine Markman. I'm Chief Business Officer at Verizon Media. So run if you think of our business as serving consumers with the likes of TechCrunch and Yahoo and so on, and then businesses with our ad tech, and we have a streaming and CDN business. I run the B2B business, and I'm also an angel investor and LP in a couple of funds. So mostly focused on MarTech, AI, and data. When it comes to investments, very happy to be here.
And it's Ivan.
Ivan, yes.
Sorry, apologies for that. That's on me. Great
to
have you here. David?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm David Fleck. I'm the founder and managing partner of Free Flow Ventures. We're a venture fund focused exclusively on Caltech and JPL, and look at, primarily the investments we make fall under the big buckets of human health and planetary health, with the Big 10 perspective. And my experience is in, big data, applied AI and ML, and we're now applying a lot of those learnings to, new scientific disciplines and new scientific fields. So thanks again to Lava and everyone that's pulled this together. Excited to be here today.
Excellent, and good to see you again. The last of our panelists is Sarab.
Hey guys, my name's Sarab Suri. I'm at Saracap Ventures. We're an early stage VC firm based out here in Orange County. We primarily invest in just three areas of tech, which is cybersecurity, enterprise AI, and health tech. Very happy to be here. We come in with a slightly different enterprise-only focus and really focus on the purchase orders, et cetera, for the companies. And as I said, thanks to Lava for kind of putting this together, and excited to see not just the companies coming in, but my fellow panelists as well. And I have one of my partners, Avi, here with me as well, since we kind of decided to slowly start opening up the office. Although I see everybody else is doing the smarter than staying at home, we started dipping our toes in the water. I don't know how that'll go.
That's great. It's good to have all of you here today. So the first company that we have up is Tyme for Survivors from UC San Diego. If you're, there you go. If you're ready, you can take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reese, co-founder of Tyme.
And I'm Kristen, co-founder of Tyme, and we're redesigning the Title IX reporting process. Every year, nearly 100,000 college students are sexually assaulted, and 3 of 4 cases go unreported, largely due to the difficulty of the reporting process, which can be traumatic for survivors and a liability for universities. Why?
Survivors are forced to choose between reporting their assault or taking the time to heal, risking losing their credibility. University resources can be hard to navigate, leaving survivors feeling abandoned. Survivors need a safe space to record their assault until they're ready to report, direct access to university resources, and a community of support.
Meeting Title IX requirements and managing cases is extremely difficult. Administrators are liable for any gaps in a survivor's knowledge of rights, resources, and processes. Universities need a feedback loop between survivors and administrators to improve reporting and prevent lawsuits before they happen.
Our survivor-focused solution provides a confidential, web-based documentation tool that mimics an initial Title IX interview to any student in the United States. Reports are timestamped to preserve details and evidence in real time. When a survivor is ready, Tyme generates an encrypted, password-protected report that can be taken to a university's Title IX office. Tyme's mobile advocate provides survivors with Title IX resources, quick escapes, emergency service helplines, and a chat to connect survivors with advocates, investigators, and counselors.
Tyme is a nonprofit with a subscription model that saves universities time, money, and peace of mind. For $10,000 per year, university-specific questions, resources, policies, and procedures can be added to Tyme's base platform. At $15,000 a year, a custom admin portal allows administrators to modify the question set, see the number of active cases, and communicate directly with survivors. For both subscriptions, during reporting, survivors can complete quantitative surveys so that universities can better understand where gaps in their process might lie. With over 5,300 institutions in the United States, we project a total available market of $80 million in annual revenue.
Our competitors, Jado and Callisto, rely on the identification of matching cases. Neither app addresses university needs or gives survivors control over whether their case moves forward. With Tyme, survivors decide when reporting begins. We specifically address Title IX by consolidating resources and facilitating correspondence between survivors and administrators.
The reporting platform will be beta tested at UCSD next month. Our most pressing costs include launching the mobile advocate and supporting our team as we transition to full-time. We plan to invest in marketing campaigns to get our product to as many survivors and universities as possible.
In light of Betsy DeVos's new Title IX regulations, survivors now more than ever need a space where Title IX can work best for everyone. On behalf of everyone at Tyme, thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to turn this over to our panelists for a discussion and questions.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, I realized I wasn't showing my screen throughout all of that.
Well, you were very compelling,
Oh,
regardless.
thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
there were no slides.
Okay, I had no idea. I just saw the chat. Let me at least pull up my demo. That is entirely on me. You guys
keep them handy, and you can jump to them as the questions go that way.
Perfect.
Use them for supporting material.
Thank you.
Yep. Well, I'll start with one. You mentioned you are not-for-profit, which I imagine the whole VC model works under investing in a company and then selling a company later. I do you have any thoughts on how that works? Is that possible for a not-for-profit? What are your thoughts about the future of how you want to
we
take
entered this competition as a not-for-profit. So basically, we're looking for foundational support instead of going down the traditional VC route. How are we doing? We are looking for just thoughts about our business model. We don't want to be a typical nonprofit that just relies on donations. So we have a subscription model that hopefully will support us. Kind of our path for being a nonprofit is we don't have a designated exit strategy, as we don't see ourselves going public or being acquired due to like the sensitive nature of the data that we're holding.
Okay. Well, pitching to VCs and pitching to foundations is a very similar skill. So yeah.
I think being a nonprofit, to your point, Reese, it doesn't preclude you from generating revenue and having money that you can put to work towards other initiatives. And so help me understand the $10,000 number. What was the rationale behind that? Is there for example, is there a budget that we're trying to tap into that led us to the $10,000 number? Is there some margin that you're generating with that? Help me understand the logic behind that.
So the reason for our $10,000 number, we've been working with Arizona State and UCSD to do some customer discovery. And it seems like that's the point where they kind of balance the liability that we help solve. So we have this feedback loop that kind of helps catch lawsuits before they happen. So these survivors can fill out these surveys and they can see, oh, we're not giving the survivor enough support in this, and this area. Instead of it turning into a lawsuit, it can be a point where survivors can or where university can fix that solution before a survivor feels like it becomes too big of an issue to deal with the university. So that's kind of their point that's their balancing point where they can kind of balance like the liability that we provide and their budget. So that $10,000 number is our first year, and then that allows the surveys, and that allows working with us to build a question set. And that $15,000 tier allows them to have a custom portal where they can directly deal with complaints in-house and in the system.
Helpful. Hi, everyone. First of all, I thought it was a great presentation in spite of the slides not working. I guess my question for you is at the university, I have two questions. At the university side, who's the decision maker, within the university, and sort of on what, when you pitch them, like on what basis are they making a decision? Are they thinking about potential liability? Are they thinking about, like what's going through their head as you're offering them the solution? That's one. And two, you kind of touched very briefly on the competitive landscape. I would love to hear a little bit more about what they are or are not doing and where you're differentiated.
Yeah, so we work directly with the Dean of Students. We're working with the Dean of Students at Arizona State and the Office of the Prevention and Harassment and Discrimination, the director of that division at UCSD. So the Dean of Students at ASU is responsible for doing the final decision for cases. So they decide if a student gets expelled or the case gets dropped. And at the OPHD office, they're the ones that handle investigations directly, and we're working with them to fix that interface.
And are they, like, what is, and I say this knowing that, this is one of these situations, I guess, similar to spending time in online dating where like the numbers are actual humans behind the scenes. So I don't mean to boil it down to just numbers, but like, what are the like metrics that these people are held accountable to at like the university level? Like, does that make sense?
Are you referring to like their actual budget or the risk?
No, not even the budget, just meaning like when you go in, they're going to like, what's the first thing that's going to go through their head? Like I have X number of student cases that I'm dealing with, and this will help, mitigate the risk. 1 out of every 10 of those is going to go to court. That's going to mitigate the risk. And the board of the university is looking at me to prevent these from going forward. Like what's going through their heads?
Yeah. So just last year, actually, universities across the United States paid $30 million in Title IX lawsuits, and Dartmouth saw a 14% drop in admission in 2014 because of a mishandled sexual assault case. So knowing that, and that universities typically pay $350,000 in insurance for their Title IX office in that liability insurance, that's kind of the thoughts in their heads. If we can help mitigate that and mitigate lawsuits, your average Title IX lawsuit can range anywhere from $250,000 to over $1 million plus in settlements.
Very helpful. And sorry, that gets me to my last question, and then I'm going to turn it over. Mm-hmm. Could you go to insurance companies? Could you go to the insurers as a go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, that seems like a really good route. Kind of one of our go-to-market strategies is to approach the universities and as well as work with the upper administration of the university, like the president's office, to talk about actual liability.
Very helpful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
My question was somewhat related in terms of how you think about scaling these if your target customers are universities. You've mentioned potentially, some other customers, but can you talk about how you think about going from, 1 to 10 to 1,000 to many more? And is there a particular, what needs to be true about the university for them to be the right target for you?
So for us to be able to work with them, any university that receives government funding is required to have a Title IX coordinator. So we need to work with universities that have Title IX coordinators. We have a base question set that we built with actual investigators here at UCSD. So universities can jump into using our product right away. However, we can also work with them and work with their investigators to create custom questions that would benefit their university. So if a university wants to get started right away, all they have to do is contact us, and we can kind of just create that point of contact between their Title IX investigator and our system, and their university can be using it right away. If they want to create a custom question set, then they can work with us to create that pairing and set up those custom admin portals, and that would take 2 to 3 weeks.
It's funny, you mentioned insurance premiums. Is there any, and you may not know this yet, but would this help reduce premiums, liability? I mean, the liability insurance providers, would they be interested in this sort of thing?
They would, but they need to see feedback of it actually working, of at least a year or two of seeing a university have a drop in cases that become lawsuits. So it could be a long-term goal, but we need to get that continuous feedback, which we're excited and hopefully receive.
Right. So,
David,
sorry, go ahead, David.
Oh, okay. Sorry, just trying to interrupt people. More of a comment that I had was, I don't know if what caused you guys to want to create this company, but I always love hearing, this is my own personal perspective, I always love hearing that origin story, like why is this so important to you? Because at the end of the day, when you're investing at the pre-seed level, it's about the people. And so, like, what drew you to this problem? And then to state the obvious, when you look at the composition of the panelists here, which is going to be, unfortunately, and we're all trying to change this, but sometimes the composition of the meeting rooms that you'll go into, it's sometimes male, more male dominated. And so I want to make sure that we understand that pressing issue as clearly as you guys do, and why you want to start this. Does that make sense?
So I'm going to change the mood of this presentation dramatically. So I was assaulted at Arizona State. I went through the whole year-long reporting process, constantly being dropped at every turn. Resources weren't connecting for me. I had to reach out to advocates on my own, send all of these emails. And it was to the point that I felt like I didn't really have any support. And I actually ended up dropping out of college and transferring to UCSD. So with that in mind, I sat down with a pen and paper and wanted to create a situation so no one really had to go through what I had to go through.
Yeah.
And
this is exactly, I didn't know that, but I mean, thanks for sharing that in this forum, but like, that's so important, because then we're like, oh man, you're gonna like, I call it driving through walls. It's like, you're gonna drive through walls for this, because you're like, pardon my French, but like, fuck this, man, I need to fix this.
Yeah.
So that tells us a lot when you can share that emotion. Yeah.
And I get survivors coming left and right to us when we've been talking to student orgs and everything, and survivors come up and they say, this is a product that we need to put on campuses. This is a product that we need right now. And I hear survivors tell us all the time that this would have changed the way that their case would have gone if they had the platform like this. So
actually, Saurabh, we're gonna run out of time. But David, that's a really good point, because yes, Race and Kristen, that really shows, I mean, passion matters so much for making any business a success, and you've got a very aligned interest in this succeeding, obviously. So thank you so much. Slides or no slides, it may have been better without them. I don't know. It was a very good presentation, and thank you for the discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Best
Nice job. Thanks a lot.
Okay, our next company that we have lined up is from USC. It's Optimal IC Technologies. If you're on the line, you can take it away.
My name is Louis Hartle, and I'm the CEO of Optimal IC Technologies. The semiconductor industry has a dirty little secret, and that little secret is a big, big problem. Dreadfully low yields. These poor yields are killing profits. Optimal IC's patented technology enables a resolution of chip design orders of magnitude greater than existing visibility. It identifies and mitigates causes of chip failures during the testing process. Optimal IC's technology will help chip companies dramatically improve yields and improve profits. Optimal IC provides visibility into weak subcomponents of chips. We spot vulnerabilities on a chip-by-chip basis. We isolate weak components in real time. We tune at subcomponent resolution, saving chips that would otherwise fail and contribute to low yields, delivering higher yields and greater profits. There are several more compelling applications to this patented technology. These applications include tuning chips to maximize the performance of every single chip. In addition, optimizing power consumption of every single chip. Also, designs can be simulated and analyzed prior to the manufacturing process to identify potential hotspots using resolutions current technologies can't achieve. Even more compelling, this technology can be used to eliminate security vulnerabilities. Optimal Security creates a profile or a fingerprint for each IC. Since each chip has a unique power temperature fingerprint, the extracted fingerprint can be compared to original design specification. This enables identification of maliciously modified chips and/or the presence of any malware or erroneous software on a single chip. This not only improves security of ICs integrated into systems, but the security of entire systems themselves by reducing or eliminating the potential for hacks, malicious insertion, or exploitation of hidden backdoor vulnerabilities. We will go to market with optimal yield. We will follow with optimal performance, optimal power, optimal design, and optimal security. Optimal IC Technologies is seeking $1.5 million for 30% of the company and an opportunity to make a significant and positive impact on the $426 billion semiconductor industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. That was great. I'll like to turn it over to our panelists now.
Louis, that was super helpful. Help us understand where you fit in the design flow. So is this something that is in the front end, the back end? Where does someone use this?
So most of this is in the manufacturing process. And right now, the failures are taking place late in the manufacturing process, in the packaging process after die. We could move upstream all the way to the beginning of the manufacturing process and integrate it into that. In addition, there are design components in with this technology. We can use simulation. We can create simulation software that is about 100,000 times faster than current simulation software. So it would have an impact on design as well.
So the customer would be a foundry, correct?
A foundry would be a perfect customer, fab house, also the suppliers of design software. So the market's pretty broad. A foundry would be an ideal customer, yes.
So can you talk a little bit about how far that you've gotten thus far, a little bit about the traction on the company and a little bit on the background of the company as well?
Sure, absolutely. We are we're in the early stages. Dr. Young Cho and Dr. Andrew Goodney and PhD student Dr. Siddharth Gabbard over at the University of Southern California patented this technology a few years ago. And I started the company a little over 2 years ago. We're at our very beginning stages, just really creating a roadmap, creating an executive summary and a business plan. We're at technical readiness, probably 5. USC had beta units in the lab proving the technology works. So we really need to get some funding to get prototypes and product development.
Got it. So right now you're in a pre-prototype stage, and the patents, I'm guessing, are owned by USC. So are you licensing them out?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so it's a licensed out model. Got it. Thank you.
And how do you engage with customers? Is this sorry, you mentioned you're licensing the technology from university, but what's the business model for? I mean, I understand the value you're providing of increasing yield, but how do you monetize that?
Yeah, we need to get into the door with, for example, last month Intel had a public announcement that they were going to be another year behind on an already year behind schedule to move to a 7 nanometer standard. And really, moving to smaller and smaller standards is what's causing this problem. It's not a design problem. It's an unpredictable, random heat dissipation problem. And so we know, for example, Intel is having challenges with this. Again, 2 years behind. We know Samsung research centers have been looking at this for close to a decade. So really to get a prototype, get into present this solution, and then the model could be probably a licensing model too. So we're not designing hardware and software. We hop onto existing hardware and software with our proprietary information and license that to the customer.
So Louis, just a piece of advice. I went through the process of licensing a technology out of university that was meant to be used for a licensing business. And there was some government money involved. And so I think it's worthwhile to make sure that, in your negotiation with USC, you make it very clear that this is going to be a licensing business. There's a good chance that the people that you license this technology to, which could be an IDM, a foundry, an AT, an automated test shop, they may need to license it to somebody else. And so I would just make sure that you're clear from that perspective, and there aren't anything that would require your licensees to have permission from the university to be able to sub-license the technology, if that makes sense. It's a very, very challenging process that I went through, and I just wanted to make sure you have a heads up on that.
I appreciate the advice, yes.
Just for my education, what is the typical yield that exists today?
It varies greatly because of the types of chips being manufactured, but we'll say for more complex chips, it's a well-kept secret, but some information shows as high as 50%.
Wow.
And it's very, very much pretty, at their testing, their final testing, they're really applying voltage to the circuits, and there are random hot spots caused by poor thermal dissipation. And again, it's not a design flaw, it's an unknown, unpredictable, random flaw right now. We basically have a paradigm shift to go from, right now the visibility is at a lot, a manufacturing lot, whether that's 10,000, 100,000, or 5 million. That's the granularity they have. Now we come down not just into the lot, into the wafer, but down to every single sub-circuit of a single chip. So we radically changed that approach.
And how much do you think you can move the needle? Let's just go with a 50% number. What do you think it would be with your assistance?
I think it would be in, you know, the 50% everything would go to the high 90s.
I think, Louis, it's important in your presentation to customers to make it very clear that the CAD tools that are available today give you junction temperatures. So you can advertise the performance of your chip. I have a handful of companies that are doing this. They can advertise the performance of their chip, the clock speeds of their chips as a function of junction temperature. So I feel like as if what you guys are doing is taking it a step further, accounting for variations in fab. And so I think it's important to make it very clear as to how you're taking those actual, you know, variations into account and how that can impact the kind of, you know, sticker performance on a chip that comes off that line. Because that's real money for your customers or for their customers.
Yeah. In addition to improving the yields, two other results are we can either optimize the performance of every single chip, which would probably be of great interest for graphics chips or other powerful chips, or we can optimize the power consumption of the chip, which may be of interest to data farms and so forth. So the yield is certainly the big hook, the lead, but there are other applications of the technology. Thank you.
I would just real quick, this is not my area of expertise, but building just quickly on Gene's feedback, I would just make sure in your presentation you identify specific elements of the market. Like, you know, you talked about this 50% number, like if that's true, that's a monumental number as it relates to like the validity of your presentation. So I would just make sure you're hitting that early on in the presentation. You reference it at a high level, but I would get more specific if you can.
Yeah, thank you. It is a it's a wonderful challenge to do this in 3 minutes. So I appreciate the feedback.
Absolutely. But yeah, Louis, that was great. Now, anyone who knows anything about manufacturing, end of line yield is the most expensive loss you can have. You've already sunk your CapEx, you've already sunk all your materials. So that's a big, big deal if you can move the needle. So I think that's really important to highlight, which I mean, you did to some extent, but excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Excellent. The next company we have is memwris. And if they are, I think I'm saying that right. There we go. Charlotte, all right, I will hand it over to you and you can take it away. Yeah.
Ventriloquist.
Charlotte Momus, co-founder and CEO of memwris. We're designing the first interface overhaul since the 80s. Trying to get work done from a phone feels like this. The screen is too small, your fingers get in the way. But what if doing harder tasks like work was actually possible? Smartphone-only households and persons could have access to employment and education resources, benefiting emerging markets and remote learning. Not to mention we could stop lugging around multiple devices. But what's in our way is a 40-year-old interface that was never designed to be used with fingers or touchscreens. And instead, the desktop point-and-click interface has been force-fit to our phone screens. And while the big guys are toying with splashy new hardware and non-general solutions, memwris is replacing point-and-click for the everyday user, for the chance to revolutionize the $500 billion mobile industry. Our patent-pending interface uses a unique algorithm to unlock complex workflows on small screens. We optimize for the screen real estate to maximize accuracy, muscle memory, and stop fingers from being in the way. And on our path toward memwris-powered devices, we're starting by undeniably proving our UI, and we've selected a first product that can double as R&D and unlocks an impractical, non-trivial workflow and has a market that's scalable and growing and has a billion-dollar TAM. We're building a first-of-its-kind integrated development environment to allow on-the-go coding and management of remote systems. We'll sell our cross-platform SaaS application once we've conducted heavy usability studies and collected performance stats. And for the nearly half of programmers that want the ability to code from a phone, there's nothing on the market that they want to use, but they want to use memwris. And we have more than 170 testers signed on. And that's just a small part of the 40 million professionals, tinkers, and known early adopters out there. This is a big market with big potential. Just ask Microsoft. They bought GitHub for $7.5 billion. Plus, by targeting programmers, they can help us make inroads toward widespread user adoption by building our UI into their own applications, and we'll do so by licensing. So with licensing and with sales of our SaaS application, we have potential to reach $100 million by the end of 2025. And we're the team to do it. We have 25 years in engineering, business strategy, and marketing. And our advisors are serial entrepreneurs, researchers, and UI innovators, with tech being featured in movies like The Minority Report and Iron Man. And over these next 12 months, focused to getting to beta, we're going to be doing a lot of R&D, prototyping and development, and scaling our team. So we're seeking $500,000. So if you want to make interfaces get out of the 80s, let's connect so we can do big things with small screens.
I know that you haven't raised the money to build it, but I want to understand more, or I was hoping to see maybe a little more on what the problems are today. Because I think there would be a debate on that. So if you could just give more context on that.
From a general UI perspective, or for programmers, or both?
Yeah, well, just what you're solving for. So, but to me, I think it probably, as an investor and as a general panelist, if you will, it probably makes sense to start with like the general user's perspective and then pull that back to
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, trying to get anything more complex done on a phone right now is really difficult. We know that because we have headaches and we pull out and reach for a laptop when we want to try to get anything more complex than scrolling through photos or texting. And that's because point and click is just, that's been created to be used on desktop computers that have a physical mouse and a physical keyboard. And it's just been shoved onto our phone screens. So there's not an actual interface that has been created to use fingers. And so we just think that's a huge problem. Right now, point and click is all about using familiar visualizations to have that inform decisions. And at memwris, we think that's backwards. We think we need to optimize first for the input system and have that inform visualizations. Because right now your finger is getting in the way because it's covering your selection on the screen. And with memwris, our algorithm allows for your finger to never be an issue. It also allows you to navigate through thousands of pages, thousands of lines of code or text by being able to go to your place directly versus having to do the never-ending scroll.
I'm curious, how do you code on a phone? I mean, the whole...
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely impractical to do. You know, this is coming from, our customer profile is who's building this. My co-founder and CTO, Zach, he wanted the ability to code from a phone 6 or 7 years ago when he was forced to go to a touchscreen device that lost that physical keyboard. And 50% of programmers, you know, talking to programmers, we know that 50% want the ability to code from a phone. And it's not to do like real world programming all the time, but the ability to be able to fix a bug while you're out or in the bathroom or laying in bed, they want that ability. And what's on the market right now, there's just, they have terrible negative reviews because it's not actually solving for that usability of a small screen. And that's what memwris allows for.
I'm wishing all the QA teams out there good luck when everybody starts editing code from a mobile phone.
Well, some people do it now, and people are searching for it. If you just go Google how to code on a phone, you'll see Quora and Reddit, dozens upon dozens of people trying to search for that.
So can I just pinpoint, you're building, what you were building is effectively a new, I mean, as you started the presentation, you said new mobile interface.
Yes.
In general, something that would effectively compete with the likes of Apple and Google and the kind of key. But I guess my question is, what are the advantages that you have over them? Why do you think they have not? And listen, it's hard to know just from the demo what the specific insights are that you have into the interface. But why do you think they have not gone and done this?
Well, I mean, replacing point and click means big, substantial, expensive changes for them. And they're usually looking to others to push those types of boundaries. So for instance, Google didn't develop Android, they bought it. And Amazon didn't develop the tech behind Alexa, they bought it.
Right,
So
but Apple invented multi-touch.
it's a similar situation here though. It's a big move for them to change. And they're really okay with the mentality of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there's this inevitable convergence coming. You know, the global ownership of smartphones is 3 times that of PCs. And younger generations are mobile first. So we're going to inevitably get to this point where people are expecting to do more on their smaller screens and on their portable mobile devices. And with the current technology of point and click, you're just not able to do very much. Our phones are very powerful. They have a lot of muscle, but we're not able to actually access that muscle through point and click. We need the ability to have an interface that actually works well with our fingers and doesn't limit us because of our fingers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Charlotte, first I want to kind of echo what Phil talked about. Good luck once you start getting more and more coders on the phone. But I think for me, it kind of breaks down into 2 pieces, right? Because you're talking about that new paradigm, I think, as you put it, in terms of the user interface or the usability. The 2 things I'm kind of struggling with. One is the how. Okay, how are you making the point and click better? Obviously in 3 minutes it was difficult to explain. And the second part is how quick and easy is the adaptation, or how long is the educational route for people to pick something like this up?
Yeah.
Or are you looking at playing at a niche market? Because yes, coders, they might spend the time to do it, but the average person might not.
Yeah, well, just to back up really fast, we're not making point and click better. We're totally replacing point and click with a new type of UI that doesn't have, you're not using your phone like this. Your finger doesn't have any effect on the actual input on your phone. It doesn't matter where it is. So I just want to make that clear. In terms of replacing point and click, we know that's going to come with heavy R&D. I mean, I'm sure there was tons of R&D that went into point and click in the first place. So for us, the being able to get user adoption and being able to overcome that learning curve, we're aware of. We know that we need to do that, which is why we're putting 4 full phases behind user testing, because we want to make sure that people are able to grasp this quickly. And that is also why we've targeted programmers first, just because they're known early adopters that are more open to playing with new types of paradigms and new types of tools.
No, awesome, got it. I'd love to see, I mean, as you guys develop the pitch and the deck, a cooler kind of a hit on the how, right? So like you said, you're replacing point and click. Maybe it's a good thing or not, but I'm kind of struggling to figure out what are you replacing it with, is where I'm stuck. But of course, that's probably a longer conversation.
Right, and I think in terms of a public forum, we didn't feel comfortable doing a demo, but we would in a real meeting be able to have more of the how.
Understood, that makes sense, thank you.
Yeah.
How do you think you get into this market? Does it require, I mean, you talked about an app for coding, and I think that's really smart to target something specific. Do you require Android or iOS to change their user interface? Or do you feel, I mean, what do you want to target first for how you actually deploy this?
That's why we're starting with a mobile IDE that our UI is, able to really shine in. And then we'd be trying to then have more widespread user adoption by licensing the UI and the interface code to programmers to build into their own applications. Because we're not just coming right out of the gate and trying to completely integrate with Android and iOS.
Right.
We need to take some baby steps. So starting with an IDE is our baby step.
Isn't the like appropriate comp here the swipe keyboard, which I mean, like, or some version of that which can be installed as a third-party app into like an iPhone, for example, and allows you to kind of control the bottom third of the screen. Apple's now built that in, I think, to their keyboard, but isn't that the right comp?
Yeah, it's a similar path for sure. Yes, okay. Where it would be standalone, and then it could be integrated, and then potentially purchased.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte. That was.
Thank you.
You're right. It was screaming out for a demo, but I can understand your constraints. So with that constraint, that was really good. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The final company that we have today is Allthenticate from UC Santa Barbara. And there we go. Authenticate, you can take it away.
I want to introduce you guys to Authenticate. So Authenticate is an all-in-one security solution. So the problem that we're trying to address is that security has become a bad word. For users, it's never a good thing when a new security product comes out. And for administrators, it's an absolute pain to manage all of these different solutions. So what this has done is actually resulted in a ton of cost for enterprises. So, for example, phishing was the result of 76% had phishing attacks last year. This cost them a ton of money. And likewise, on the physical security side, we were interviewing our customers, and these door readers that you boot your card can cost up to $2,500 a door. So this whole thing, no one's happy, and it's costing a bunch of money. As an expert in the field, I think it's time for a revolution. So I've assembled what I believe to be the perfect team to lead this revolution. By me, with a PhD in computer science, about 10 years of research experience. Evan, our CTO, has a master's in electrical and computer engineering, so we actually have to build a lot of stuff from scratch, including the hardware. And Rita, our COO, who is the reason I'm here talking to you today. She's incredible with our PR and managing all of our operations. So the product that we want to bring to market is called single device authentication. And what we want to leverage here is the fact that your phone knows you better than anyone else on earth. The idea is if you can convince your phone that you are you, you can then use that phone to unlock anything. So you can unlock the door to your office, the laptop, and any websites you interact with using any interface that the phone already supports, that it's already paired with your car and already talks to your laptop. We do this that on the lowest level, we created a security module that can be in software. We have a nice backup based on what that's implemented in using all of the existing hardware on mobile phones today. And then on top of that, we can plug anything in like Legos. So it doesn't matter if it's a Mac, an Android phone, or a door reader. This gives us a huge competitive edge. So we're actually re-architecting the trust fabric of the internet and enterprise networks. And this fully distributed system lets us add a security module to anything very quickly. We can implement any protocol as needed for any enterprise needs. The market opportunity here is actually huge. Most of the world has come to the same realization we have, of like, I have this little computer in my pocket. Why do I need a key? Why do I need this other thing, right? The little computer in my pocket handle this for me. So the access control as a service market is expected to grow substantially, as is the multi-factor market. Phishing becomes, commonplace. We also flip the revenue model on its head a bit and do a subscription-based model to guarantee that everybody gets the best features, the best security, and integrate with all of the existing solutions out there today. And we've already had a couple minor successes. We were finalists at South by Southwest, Crunch Top. We've already closed a seed round, some great design partners on board. And our goal is to eventually become the trusted authentication solution on the internet. So when you go to log into anything, you should be able to use us and do this in a secure way. And I see that I'm out of time. So we're debating raising another bridge round to get us to our Series A, about 500K on a safe. And we sincerely hope that you will join us in this authentication revolution in one way or another.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chad. Congratulations on your success thus far. I'd like to turn it over to the panelists now for questions.
Hey, sorry, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, the communications broke up a little bit. I guess my question is, what are your key benchmarks? How do you think about your the point of replacement relative to some of the competitive solutions? How do you think about someone who's going to switch to your solution?
So I want to replace everything as a scientist, but talking to customers told us no, they will not do that. So we've actually integrated, we built it in a way that we can run in parallel with, we're completely backward compatible while you're in that transition phase. And then ideally they decide that they like logging in with their phone better than their password, and they log in the door automatically versus their key card. And then they will decide later to, hey, let's just disable the old system. It's also another reason why we wanted to do this subscription, so they don't have this huge upfront cost. They can try it out for a couple months, and if they don't like it, they can cancel it. So we're kind of betting on ourselves that our product is going to be better, and they will cancel, the incumbent and not us.
Yes, and sorry, follow-up question. What's your initial target set of customers and how you get this to them?
Yeah, ideally we want enterprises, but we acknowledge that they're not going to gamble on a startup, right? So we've actually looked at other small companies ourselves where these existing security products are just way too expensive. So we're trying to come in with a little bit smaller price point as develop to get it to the point to sell to enterprises. So we have the customers that are on board now are smaller-ish companies, 20, 50, 100 employees that, kind of feeling those pain points, mostly with physical access control right now, that they've been reaching out to us while we build up the tech.
That was my question. Is the initial market the physical? Is that your key differentiator that you think is going to win you initial customers? Is the physical access?
Yeah, that was, but that does pain point and market. That's the first product that we're pushing out. And then closely behind that is going to be the ability to also lock all of your laptops and computers. And then the final feature we want to push out will be SSH key management. So for software engineering firms like ourselves, it'd be really nice to have your SSH keys on your phone when you're using GitHub, GitLab, SSHing into servers, knowing that, they're not spread about and you don't have to generate a new SSH key on every new machine.
Right. So I think the one thing I was trying to understand is, in terms of the access solution plus multi-factor authentication, right? When you talk about the physical access piece, right? Most of the device manufacturers have their own access solutions, right? So are you talking about being some kind of an SSO kind of that sits on top of all of those on the physical side? And on the MFA side, right? Again, there are a lot of solutions that already exist, providing or enhancing existing multi-factor authentication solutions, right? Especially with banks and your phone number, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm kind of trying to understand is, why is that switch to what you're trying to do, which is that single, probably an SSO kind of a platform, more beneficial than what they already have?
Right. So we've, our interaction with customers, the biggest pain point now is like, you are a lot of solutions, right? So I want to secure my physical access control. I'll go to a company like Kissy or Brevo or OpenPath, right? I sign a contract with them. Check. Now I need, some multi-factor solution to get a G Suite. So I buy a bunch of keys for my employee. Check, right? I do something else that needs something internally. I need to manage my SSH keys. So I go invest in this other thing. Check. So the way we've architected this is that you can just purchase from Authenticate and clean the slate on all of that. And then when it comes to an employee and managing them, they're centralized. There's one private key associated with that employee. Then you can cryptographically verify everything they did because it came through their phone. You don't need a reader with like a biometric, right? It's already right here. So if I want the front door to open with a biometric at night, boom. If I want it to open automatically, same thing. And then you take that through your organization where the admins now get to pick and tune on knobs all in one centralized place with one coming every month.
Got it. But to be able to authenticate you via Authenticate, Do you have the API and plugin from all of these manufacturers, both on the physical and the software security side?
Yes. So on the physical side, it's just 2 wires, electromagnetic, and when you touch them together, they unlock. So it's our own hardware that goes in line with any electromagnetic lock. I see you shaking your head. I think you're thinking about the smart cards and the Wiegand interface that they use with some background checking, right? To answer that,
Right.
we can also interface with Wiegand. So you can take your existing smart card reader and plug it into the back of our reader. And then our reader has the relay that will actuate the electromagnetic lock. So that does also work. And then on the digital side, thanks to the finance, they've standardized most of the protocols. So they've, FU, WebAuthn, UAF, U2F, all that, right? So we can implement all the protocols. And then when it comes to the physical computers, there's a pluggable authentication module that's, used by most Unix-based systems. So now I think Windows is on board, OS X, Linux use it. So yeah, I mean, with a heavy background in security, we're on a pretty low level though when we're implementing these things. It works.
Got it. Thanks.
And just a reminder, if anyone in the audience has a question, they can use the Q&A box. So Chad, I guess one of the questions I had is you are contemplating your funding strategy going forward. What do you think would dictate whether you do one thing or the other?
Investors that are interested. So right now, initial investors, we've been talking to CCs about our Series A, and our chances were in okay shape, but we wouldn't mind hiring a few more people who could afford it, and there were the right investors on board. I think a really nice and being able to execute that quicker would be great.
Okay. Oh, wait, someone, how does the user phone owner, sorry, Alexander asks, how does the user, i.e. the phone owner, interact with Authenticate? What's that experience?
On the phone. So the way it works now, if it's configured to just automatically unlock if you're nearby, it will just unlock your phone out of your pocket. Otherwise, you'll get a notification on, and then the notification will ask you the thing, do you want to send Chad $1,000? You say yes, say present your biometric, and off you go. So it's all the phone prompting the user only when needed.
Good. Okay, well, I think we actually have to wrap up now with Tyme anyway. So Chad, thank you so much for walking us through that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful meeting, and my email was on the slides. Feel free to reach out. I don't know how else to get my email to people's hands.
I think you can actually use the chat box too.
Yeah, you can put it in the chat. People have been putting it in there as well. Thanks, Chad.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that is the end of this second day of the third session of the company presentations. Darren, I see you're back. Join the room again. I'll turn it back to you.